So Emma was named Beer Writer of the Year by the British Guild of Beer Writers, our probably third Beer Writer of the Year, I think. In 2018, she writes on sustainability and diversity in beer across a range of publications and is well loved for her podcast, Fermentation Beer and Brewing Radio, which she has been producing since 2016, which I think came out of a Brighton radio slot originally.
That's right, yeah. It was the first beer and brewing show on FM radio in the UK. I don't know if there's another one now, but it was the first and only, at the time, regular monthly beer and brewing show on FM radio.
Amazing.
I'm sure there'll be somebody with some stats somewhere who's going to correct me on that, but that's what we always thought. Yeah, so it's a regular monthly show and then became a podcast. Yeah,
fantastic. So when we chatted for the book, I was really interested to talk to you about the 2019 Great British Beer Festival. We were both there, and the theme was diversity, and it really stood out to me that you felt that was almost a turning point for CAMRA. It felt like you had a very special experience there. Could you tell us about that, please?
Yeah, I mean, I really felt it did. It felt like a bit of a turning point for the organisation. It through my eyes. I mean, I think the first thing was sort of walking in and going into sort of the press entrance, and all the people welcoming me in, kind of thing, had rainbow lanyards, and before sort of pre-COVID and pre the NHS being represented by a rainbow, the rainbow, meant lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, that's what it meant, and I thought, there's loads of gay people here working here, and then walked into the sort of main hall, and everyone had these lanyards, and there were flags everywhere, and there was even on the Learn and Discover stand there was a trans flag, and I think it's quite hard to explain how powerful that is if people aren't in my position, I suppose. Although I've got a bit of a lockdown mullet at the moment, I normally have very short quiff. I'm very obviously a butch lesbian. Just my very presence in a place makes people know who I am and kind of where I'm coming from. And to see all these flags and all these lanyards, and then all the stuff around Stonewall and the donating to Stonewall, throughout my life and throughout my beer drinking life, I've had to think about safety a lot in terms of when I open a pub door, I have to think, is this going to be safe for me? Am I going to be okay here? When I walk into a festival, I have to think, are people going to start having a go at me? Is this going to be an unpleasant experience for me? And so to have that represented, writ large across GBBF was amazing. It was such an amazing experience to feel, someone may still make some sort of comment, but this environment makes me feel that if I complained about that would be taken seriously. I wouldn't be kind of left on my own to struggle with homophobic abuse, which has happened. And I suppose the other things that so there was that was kind of a personal thing for me, but then the other things, the very clear statement from CAMRA that they weren't accepting beers or ciders with sexist labels, sexist pump clips, sexist names, that really hit the spot, I think, and you can tell because of the backlash against it. You can kind of really tell when something has made a really big impact, because there's some kind of backlash against it, particularly nowadays, trying to create some kind of culture war about beer labels. I think it was just a very clear message. We're not accepting sexist beer labels anymore. And then, of course, the third thing, which has been touched on already this evening around different methods of dispense, the keg area was very obvious, very apparent. I loved the sort of chandelier made out of kegs and empty kegs, and there was just a nice mix between the two areas. People were moving between the two. They're having a cask ale, having something in a keg, and that kind of. I just thought, wow, this feels like a big change. This feels like, and although please don't shout me down. It probably wasn't a big change. This is an incremental thing, but it felt very different for me, and it felt really positive.
I think that's the important thing, is that it is a positive step, and it really puts me in mind of when I spoke to Billy Tipping, who started the Lesbian Gay Real Ale Drinkers kind of branch within CAMRA almost, who said it happened as early as it could, because there was a point where it didn't matter how proud to be gay you were. A group of gay men could not go into a straight space and drink real ale because it wasn't safe. So they started to do that as soon as it was practically possible, rather than not doing it earlier because they didn't fancy it, or that there weren't real ale drinkers out there to work together. But you put me in mind, actually. I went off shop for a second because I reached into my bag to get my purse, because I still have my sticker. Remember, everyone had these stickers.
Oh, look at that. Yes. Yeah.
I'm not a lesbian, but I've had this on my purse ever since GBBF.
Because you do know that some people are.
Some people are lesbians. Get over it. Yeah, exactly. It sums up my feelings about everything pretty perfectly, to be honest. And I think it's fantastic that we had that area of kind of real, just a slightly more forgiving environment than we've seen before. Like, there were a lot of people that perhaps were more accepting of Stonewall as the charity being there, and all those kind of different influences that perhaps people hadn't come across before. And I think that's a really positive step. I was going to ask you as well about how you think CAMRA's maintain that standard, because obviously now we're coming up to 2 years down the line from that. Personally, I've seen CAMRA be really flexible and pivot really quickly during lockdown in response to big, challenging issues. Is that something you've seen?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've had a lot to do with the Learn and Discover section of CAMRA over lockdown in terms of contributing to that, and that's kind of, I liaise with Alex Metcalf, who is such a has had such a, I feel such a positive influence on that whole area in terms of you're getting things up and running, as you say, pivoting really quickly in this terrible time when all the pubs and the beer festivals are no longer, and being able to produce something for members that's really accessible and interesting, and I think that the notions of inclusion and equality have come through that, not just in the subjects covered, but in the people who are being asked to cover those subjects, and the kind of work that's on there. I think that's been really obvious. I think I think these sorts of things take a really long time. Embedding equality and inclusion in an organization as big as CAMRA is really difficult, in the same way as it's difficult in the rest of life. We live in a society where structural inequality exists. It would be very odd if it didn't exist in CAMRA as an organization. And I think there's, I've experienced really positive pockets of hope with the stuff on Learn and Discover, with Cambridge Beer Festival, which I'm drinking from a Cambridge Beer Festival glass, which was another festival that really shows the kind of inclusion. I think there's a long way to go, and I think one of the main areas where there's a long way to go is in terms of people who don't share the same skin color as me and as most of the people who are here. I think we need to think about how we engage, how we think about some of those barriers that perhaps we set up in CAMRA, but in beer in general, in the beer world in general, in terms of engaging with people and allowing people to feel safe and included. But I think there is a real commitment to change in the organisation. That's how I read it, and I hope that continues. Yeah.
I think that's really how I feel about it as well. So to the point where, as I was writing the book, the Black Lives Matter protest happened. And so I simply reproduced Nick Antona's statement on Black Lives Matter in full in the book, so that there is accountability in the future, because I know that was a first step for CAMRA, like you say, in terms of people of different colours to ourselves, both white women. I think that there is work to be done, but hopefully we can all start helping to make the organisation feel more inclusive in that regard, as well as some of the other kind of communities that we're already managing to welcome. And on that note, I'm going to cut you off, Emma, I'm afraid.
I suppose just one last comment. I think I'm so heartened by the fact that a woman has written the history of CAMRA. I think that's and that you've managed to include so many amazing women who've contributed to the history of CAMRA over this evening. So
thank you, Emma. Appreciate it.
Cheers to you. Well done.
Thank you. And what are you drinking even more
Oh
quickly?
gosh, I've been through a couple. I'm on Proper Job at the moment, so still Proper Job.
Nice. A lot of points for St Austell coming in tonight. Thanks, Emma. I'm going to cut you off now.